Hello, dear friends. This news appears just when I thought that today we were resting from the apocalypse in chapters. They don't even let us breathe. Now there is not only the threat of the rupture of the Chinese dam of the Three Gorges, but also the threat of a tsunami due to landslide on the coastal slope of the Cumbre Vieja volcano in the Canary Islands of La Palma. God take us by surprise. Opinion piece. Alert in La Palma. Yellow alert on Canary Islands. Cumbre Vieja volcano is activated. Seismic swarm of 105,000 tremors. New York fears possible tsunami. Another storm hits the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. More than 500,000 Texans without electricity. Millions of citizens fell into poverty in 2020. Top Chinese bank executive arrested for corruption. We are on shakier ground than we thought. Zimbabwe begins 12-hour daily power cuts. Let's start. Seismic swarm on the island of La Palma, Spain. More than 1,500 tremors, including one of magnitude 3.9, are recorded in Canary Islands. The authorities on Monday activated the yellow traffic light in the Cumbre Vieja National Park due to the increase of earthquakes in the area. A total of 1,570 earthquakes, including one of magnitude 3.9, have been registered since last Saturday in the southern area of the island of La Palma, informed this Tuesday the National Geographic Institute. This institute has reported that during the first hours of this Tuesday, more than 100 seismic movements have been registered in the Canary Island of La Palma, one of which has reached a magnitude of 3.9 on the Richter scale and was detected in the municipality of El Paso. This earthquake, which was felt by the population, was located at 6 hours at a depth of 9 kilometers, and 3 movements of 3.1 magnitude were also detected during this Tuesday. The organism detailed that the depth of the telluric movements remains between 8 and 13 kilometers. This one represents a significant change in the activity of the Cumbre Vieja volcano, which is related to a process of magnetic intrusion in the interior of the island's crust. The new tremors have been located a day after the yellow traffic light, the second level of alert on a scale of 4, has been activated in the Cumbre Vieja area of La Palma due to the increase of earthquakes, which could be counted by hundreds since last weekend. Specifically, the plan has been activated in alert situation for Fuencaliente, Los Llanos de Aridane, El Paso and Mazo, and the traffic light has been changed from green to yellow for those municipalities. This Tuesday, tremors have also appeared in the municipality of Tazacorte, where even one has been recorded just 4 kilometers from the surface. The National Geographic Institute attributes this new low-intensity phenomenon to the presence of magma under the island and that exerts pressure in the lower part of the crust. This type of magma emplacement is to be expected in active volcanic islands and can last for many years in what is interpreted as a normal process of activity and without risk to the population. The Volcanological Institute of the Canary Islands has linked this seismic swarm detected since last weekend in La Palma to a process of magmatic intrusion in the interior of the island's crust. The seismic activity that began last weekend is moving to the west of the island, and the depth has also decreased according to the latest report of the National Geographic Institute, which notes that the deformation is 1.5 centimeters. According to some scientists, the Cumbre Vieja volcano would eventually split in two, and one of its parts, the western flank, would fall into the sea, causing a colossal wave with devastating effects on the Atlantic coast of North Africa and Europe, and also on the distant coast of the American continent. It is not yet known when this terrible event will occur, although it is believed that the displacement has already begun and that an eruption would be the final trigger. One of the flanks of Cumbre Vieja volcano on the Canary Island of La Palma has begun to move towards the ocean, and its fall would cause a disaster comparable to the impact of a meteorite against the Earth's surface, according to a computer model developed by European and American scientists on behalf of major insurance companies. To strengthen the existing measuring instruments on the island could anticipate a new eruption in 2 weeks and minimize the risks to people. Cumbre Vieja rises 2 kilometers above Earth's surface, although it's a volcano 6 kilometers high from the ocean floor. It is the most active volcano in the Canary Islands and one of the most active in the planet. In the last 5 centuries, it has erupted 7 times, the last of which in 1949 formed a fault along the crest of the volcano that displaced its western flank downwards. New York placed in its emergency plans a possible tidal wave originating in the Canary Island. The New York City Council has on its agenda of risks of natural phenomena the possibility of the arrival of a tidal wave coming from the Canary Island. The reason for adding the islands to the epicenter of a possible tsunami lies in seismic activity. The authorities keep this issue taboo because they make their living from tourism. New York City's geography, location and density make it exceptionally vulnerable to natural disaster. Unlike the tsunami in Japan, which was caused by plate movements on the seabed, the New York tsunami would have its origin in the Cumbre Vieja volcano or La Palma, where the resulting tsunami will depend on the magnitude of the landslide and whether it occurs rapidly or in phases. The technical report states, hypothesis. The hypothesis of a disaster coming from the Canary Islands is justified in the studies of Stephen Watt, a Californian professor of geophysics who has been defending the arrival of a catastrophe of this type in New York and the rest of North American East Coast since 2001. Watt created a visual system showing the flooding that would occur in New York 9 or 10 hours after the collapse of the Canary Islands, and on the basis of a 20-meter wave that, in his opinion, would be in medium range of what is possible. According to his calculations, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Long Island, New Jersey, and Staten Island would be underwater. It would take 9 to 10 hours to get from Canary Islands, to the US, meaning there would be a window of time to save lives and pets. Such an event would have an impact on population relocation in Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. The size of the resulting tsunami would depend on how large the landslide was and whether it occurred rapidly or in phases. Definition. A tsunami or tidal wave is a complex event involving a group of waves of variable size in a body of water of great energy, which is produced when a large mass of water is displaced vertically by some extraordinary phenomenon, for example, an earthquake, volcanic eruption, submarine detonations, landslides, glacial ice slides, meteorite impact, etc. Unlike normal ocean waves produced by wind or tides, which are generated by the gravitational pull of the sun and moon, a tsunami is generated by the displacement of water. This type of wave displaces a much larger amount of water than surface waves produced by the wind. It is estimated that 90% of these phenomena are caused by earthquakes, in which case they are more accurately called tectonic tsunamis. The energy of a tsunami depends on its height, its wavelength, and the length of its front. The total energy discharged over a coastal area will also depend on the number of peaks in the wave train. It is common for a tsunami traveling a long distance to decrease the height of its waves, but it will always maintain a speed determined by the depth over which it travels. Normally, in the case of tectonic tsunamis, the wave height in deep water is of the order of 1 meter, but the wavelength can reach a few hundred kilometers. This allows that although the height in open ocean is very low, this height grows abruptly as the depth decreases, so that as the velocity of the front part of the tsunami is reduced, the height necessarily grows by transformation of kinetic energy into potential energy. In this way, it can sweep a mass of water a few meters high as it passes inland. A storm in the Gulf. Another storm lashes Gulf Coast with heavy downpours. Tropical storm Nicholas swept across the Gulf Coast of Texas and Louisiana on Tuesday, drenching the region with torrential downpours and knocking out power to hundreds of thousands of people as floodwaters and debris covered streets throughout the area. More than 500,000 Texans without power. Nicholas intensified to a Category 1 hurricane early this morning before making landfall southwest of Galveston, Texas. The storm has downgraded to a tropical storm with maximum sustained winds of 45 miles per hour as it slowly moves through the greater Houston area. Inflation. One of the largest supermarket chains warns that inflation is about to hit more citizens. An executive at Kroger, one of the largest supermarket chains in the US, warned that grocery prices are about to rise even more this year as inflation increases. Inflation is rising more than previously anticipated, with prices expected to increase an additional 2 to 3% during the second half of 2021. Consumers expect inflation to reach a record 4%. Consumer inflation expectation for the year ahead reached a new all-time high for this series of 5.18 in August, up sharply from 4.84% in June. X22 report. The economic lie is being exposed. People are seeing through delusion. They are trying to push through a tax bill that will cause everyone's taxes to go up. Small businesses will be hit hard, and this is part of the Great Reset Plan. Inflation is coming in panic over cryptocurrencies. Finance. Millions of citizens fell into poverty in 2020. The percentage of Americans living in poverty rose from a record low last year, with 3.3 million people poorer as restrictions wiped out more than a decade of economic gains. Gold advances. Gold advanced after lower than expected inflation data eased concerns that the Federal Reserve may soon be forced to cut back on its bond buying. Silver prices improve. Silver prices recovered from the previous session's low, forming a day with long fuse. The dollar tried to rally but was pushed back ahead of the Federal Reserve's monetary policy meeting. There are several data points that will help drive silver prices for the rest of the week. Stocks end lower. Stocks closed lower on Tuesday to erase earlier gains as traders digested a new print on consumer inflation, which showed a slightly slower rise in prices last month. Dow Jones fell nearly 300 points. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell about 292 points or 0.8% to finish near 34,578 according to preliminary figures, while the S&P 500 gave up about 26 points. Financials track indexes lower. The Dow Jones and S&P 500 indexes fell Tuesday, dragged lower by financial stocks after data showing a slower than expected rise in inflation raised uncertainty about the Federal Reserve's timetable for reducing monetary stimulus. Inflation rises. Underlying consumer prices rose at their slowest pace in 6 months in August due to a drop in used motor vehicle prices, suggesting that inflation would likely have peaked, although it could remain high for a while amid persistent supply constraints. Tax showdown. Investors are increasing their focus on Washington and the prospect of a tax hike and protracted fight over raising the debt ceiling loom over stock rally. New dollar. The new dollar concept may finally replace the currency with a modern design that addresses the problems of counterfeiting and destruction of banknotes. Designed by Andrew August, this concept features a bold design that modernizes every bill in circulation. The dollar concept replaces the traditional material with multiple layers of transparent polymer and updates the imaginary to replicate the translucent materials and adds layers of security. Other countries. Top Chinese bank executives detained. Global Times announced that several top Chinese bank executives have been investigated or arrested in recent weeks. This financial scrutiny comes as China seeks to fight corruption. Zimbabwe begins 12-hour daily power cuts due to shortages. Zimbabwe is once again in dire economic straits. Traffic disruptions are expected. Trains may be delayed, and there is a serious risk of ATMs and petrol stations being shut down. Bank of England urges banks to wait out EU pressure. Banks should hold their nerve in the face of pressure from the European Union to move London's euro derivatives clearing to the bloc. Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey said Tuesday. Mexico may consider southern states to produce semiconductors. As Mexico aims to boost its semiconductor manufacturing, it could build production facilities in its southern states, where much needed water is available, according to Economy Minister Tatiana Cloutier. Cold War. Press criticizes Russian spy ship with submarine cable cutting capability. The British press is up in arms over the presence of a Russian spy ship in the English Channel, insinuating that the vessel, which acts as a mothership for deep submerged mini-submarines and could engage in nefarious activities if left unguarded. Chinese warships sailed near Alaska. The Coast Guard disclosed an incident involving Chinese military vessels approaching US waters off Alaska. It happened in the late August, although the incident was disclosed on Monday. US withdraws Patriot missile air defense from Saudi base. Satellite imagery shows that several missile batteries previously deployed in Saudi Arabia, including THAAD batteries and Patriot missiles, have been removed from the area in late August. The missiles are at Prince Sultan Air Base near Riyadh. A war with Russia and China would destroy the world. With the world's nuclear stockpile growing and countries upgrading their warheads and rockets, there is a need to reduce tensions and avoid atomic Armageddon, said General John E. Hayden. Are Russia and Belarus preparing for a conflict with the West? Since 2009, the quadrennial Zapad military exercises have become a rotating autumn feature for troops from Russia, Belarus, and some other friendly states. However, this raises concerns in the Western media. Afghanistan. China wants Afghanistan's copper. Afghanistan high-grade Mes Aynak copper deposit is estimated to be one of the world's largest untapped projects, containing 240 million tons of 2.3% grade copper ore. But there are obstacles in the way of mining at the site. Thousands protest against Taliban in Kandahar over evictions. Thousands of Afghans protested against the Taliban in the southern city of Kandahar on Tuesday, according to a former government official and local television footage after residents were asked to leave a residential military colony. IAEA slams Iran's treatment of atomic inspectors as unacceptable. The United Nations nuclear watchdog on Tuesday described as unacceptable incidents in Iran involving its inspectors, in which diplomats say security personnel subjected female inspectors to inappropriate searches, which the United States calls harassment. Curious. Apple issues urgent update to patch vulnerability. Apple users are encouraged to update their devices after researchers discovered a security flaw that could allow hackers to secretly install spyware without their knowledge. Stonehenge is under construction. Major repair work begins at the Stonehenge stone circle. Vital repair work to repair cracks and holes in the prehistoric megaliths has begun on Tuesday in one of the biggest conservation jobs in decades at the World Heritage Site. Steve Wozniak's company to clean up space junk. Unlike Bezos and Musk, whose companies Blue Origin and SpaceX plan to establish cities on Mars or build colonies in Earth orbit, Wozniak's privateer is focused on cleaning up space junk. SpaceX rocket launches 51 Starlink satellites into orbit. 500,000 customers registered for global internet coverage. The rocket lifted off with a boom that could be heard in several communities. The payload will access several remote areas around the world. The booster returned to its drone pad titled I Love You. 4 more launches are scheduled during September. Polemic. Book depicts General Milley as a hero. An upcoming book by two Washington Post writers just leaked to the press seeks to paint General McMilley as a hero of the resistance against President Trump. In their account, Milley emerges as the supposed hero coordinated with the CIA and the NSA, top Democrats, and even his Chinese counterpart to protect America from a supposedly hanged president. Joint Chiefs Chairman McMilley participated in a top-secret mission aimed at undermining President Trump's ability to order military air strikes or launch nuclear weapons in the wake of the January 6th riot in Capitol Hill, according to a new book by the Washington Post's Bob Woodward and Robert Costa. Elizabeth Warren demands that Amazon censor best-selling books. Senator Elizabeth Warren is demanding that Amazon censor best-selling books because they contain information that challenges the official narrative. Long live freedom of expression. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.